Is the felon on some sort of experimental drug? Is that prolonging his life? Let's look into it. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, hyping the videos if you're on a mobile device, sharing the videos, and watching them all the way to the end. That's what really helps the algorithm push the videos out to more people. As I've mentioned a few times, there is some metrics that I can see that you can't see that show that YouTube is not pushing these videos out to as many people as before. So, and I think this is true of other people that are uh, reading on the felon as well. So, uh, if you don't mind liking, commenting, hyping, sharing, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so uh, this video will come out on the morning of November 4th, Election Day. I'm recording it um, in the late afternoon of November 3rd. And when I had some free time today, I was um, meditating and trying to get some images, and something kept coming back to me, like, this repeated voice, his funeral is delayed, his funeral is delayed. And I've mentioned this before months ago. I mentioned that I thought his funeral was going to be delayed, and mm, I don't think I necessarily know what that means. I'm not claiming I do. But could it be that his funeral is delayed because they're doing some sort of experimental drug uh, that we didn't see coming over the time that we've been looking at this? And maybe that's my fault too, because I said, I thought he would go in the fall, and of course it's fall until December 21st, but um that was back in like February, right? I mean, and I've kind of stuck with that timeline, and I'm not necessarily questioning the timeline. What I'm saying is because it feels like he's so close to the edge. Like his energy is very similar to that of people that are on the edge, people that I talk to that are in hospice care, for example. Maybe not quite that strong, but a very similar type of energy. And I was wondering, his funeral is delayed, and then I think I said I saw two people sharing like a thermos with hot beverages, and it was cold outside because the I knew the beverages were hot because I could see the steam coming up and I could see their breaths. That was for his funeral, not for his death. And I thought, that's why I thought his funeral was delayed, maybe. I often don't remember exactly what it is I say when I get into a really good rhythm, as I call it. But I definitely remember the images I have of the fall decorations. That was, and they were in a shopping cart, and the person was reading the message on their phone while they were waiting to check out with these fall decorations. And that's the timeline everything's based on. So, I mean, that could be Thanksgiving, it could be an after Thanksgiving sale buying up cheap stuff. It's hard to say. It could have been Halloween, but apparently it wasn't. So, you know, and then when I was sitting and I had a little bit of free time at work today where I was just kind of thinking about these things, and I kept hearing, his funeral's delayed, his funeral's delayed. And it never occurred to me that maybe his funeral's delayed because he lives a couple of months longer than previously thought. I don't think he's going to make it super long. I want to be very clear. I'm not, I just don't. I mean, I could be wrong. It certainly has happened. I certainly have been right about most of the things we've talked about on this channel, from election predictions to uh, court cases to you know, a lot of things. The Pope dying on Easter. So, but I'm not always right. I think it's important to acknowledge that I'm not always right. So I could be wrong, but I saw somebody post something about a new experimental drug to treat congestive heart failure and to also, it's thought to maybe help with dementia. And I thought, well, that'd be something that maybe he'd be on. And I think I even mentioned in the summer that you never really know about timelines because you never know what new drugs might come out. You never know if somebody might be, have a new doctor. Things get a little bit murky. So, timelines are really hard and tarot and tell and scrying and everything until like maybe the week of. Then usually I get a real strong feeling, and I don't have that real strong feeling yet, but it's like close. It's like that anticipation. So I want to look at that a little bit more. Is he taking some experimental drug? Is this prolonging his life? Is his end near? Those are the three big questions I want to look at. But today is election day, or when the video is coming out, will be election day. I want to look, will the election results scare Republicans? I have predicted that Democrats are going to win up and down the ballot. Some races are going to be really close, especially the attorney general's race in Virginia. I still think the Democrats squeaks it out. I might be wrong on that one. The rest of them I feel really confident about. That's the only one that I'm a little not quite sure on. Um, but I still think the Democrat squeaks out because I think Spamberger will win by like 12, 14 points. And I think that should be enough to help pull him over the line. But we shall see soon. Um, and then I also want to look at the Democratic chances of winning the Senate in 2026. And the reason why is there's been some pretty shocking polling out. Now, if you know what polls are, they're just snapshots and they don't predict anything and they're really quite meaningless um, from a statistical point of view, even. That's they're not what people think they are. But if Mary Patola were to run for Senate in Alaska, for example, there's a poll that shows that she could beat Dan Sullivan. There's a poll showing Sherrod Brown beating John Husted in Ohio. There's a poll that has it within a couple points in Texas if the nominee is the young state representative. So I want to look at that, and I think that's where we'll start. I think you know originally my thinking was that there's little to 30% chance maybe Democrats can win the Senate. And then I kind of thought, well, maybe it's 50-50. And I haven't really changed my mind about that, but it really is about candidate recruitment. And Texas could be a game changer if the Democrats nominate um, the young state representative. It shows about the Democrats' chances in the Senate in 2026. I've seen uh, the Ace of Wands in the water. That's very promising. Ace of Wands could be about change in leadership. Uh, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting races that would otherwise not be competitive. I think Iowa might turn out to be competitive, for example, which will surprise everybody. North Carolina, I think the Democrats will win. Maine, as long as the Democrats nominate Janet Mills, I think she will beat Susan Collins. If they nominate the oyster farmer, I think they'll lose. Um, and Ohio could be close, but Ohio's tricky. I wouldn't count on it. Okay, everything's kind of going in the right direction though for Democrats. It just is. Everything's going in the right direction. People are starting to realize the economy's terrible, that prices are actually going up, that inflation, even by the felon's own administration's metric, is higher now than it was under Biden's last 6 months. So, the Fed's cutting interest rates, but interest rates on mortgages, car loans, and stuff are not coming down because they're only slightly related. We do have some sort of message coming forward, and I think this is a message, of an emotional nature with the Knight of Cups. And what I think it is it's people telling their story on how they've been harmed by Republicans. In particular, when people go to buy insurance off the Affordable Care Act exchanges. As somebody who purchases health insurance for, uh, my father-in-law, I can tell you it is crazy expensive already. I can't imagine what it's going to be like if it's 37% more. I mean, it's crazy expensive. Which is okay, but for us, I mean, it's okay because we budgeted for that. But it's shocking. It's still shocking when you write that check every month. Um, we do get the card for the voters, the Four of Wands, in a good spot too in the upper right. Get the card for the felon. Now, I'm not saying the felon will be around for the election in 26. Just he will feature heavily in it though, because of how close all the Republicans have tied themselves to his tariffs, for example, and to his bigotry, for the lack of a broader way of saying it. At the center of the reading is the card for the Democrats, the King of Cups. It's a great spot for it. I think the danger for Democrats is people's apathy, the Four of Cups. So is people not getting out to vote for Democrats because they, for the lack of a better way of phrasing what I see when I do the resistance readings, and I say, the resistance is okay, but there's signs of fractures. Is people, letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Electing a Democrat is way better than electing a Republican. Even if the Democrat doesn't share all your ideals, it's still better. So as long as we can get over that, we should be okay. We get the Two of Pentacles, juggling money, overseas travel, foreign influence. There's going to be foreign influence in the next election. There's been foreign influence in every single election since like 2004. And probably before that. That's just the ones I start to remember. Um, to the extent it's gotten worse for sure, but it's been there. We get the Emperor, the abuse of power. This is going to feature highly in things as well. And we get stability. So everything's kind of pointing to the same thing. And that's Democrats are going to do really well because they're going to provide security, economic security in particular, security around healthcare, these types of things. Uh, People are juggling their money. They're worried about their finances. So I think they turn to Democrats, and Democrats win over the voters. Now, Democrats are going to have to sell the message. They've got to focus on the economy. And while, there's a lot of other things going on, the economy is the winning way to the election. They've already won over the people that are mad about everything else. So the swing voters are the people with the economy. So the felon is abusing his power, and we'll hear a lot about it with the King of Pentacles, the Emperor, and then the Knight of Cups. One possible issue is the apathy of the voter not turning out. It will be a midterm. Now that could work to Democrats' advantage as well. Depends who votes and who doesn't. We'll see tomorrow or today if you're watching this on Tuesday. Um, in the past if you're watching it some other timeline, but exactly what voter turnout looks like. But from the early numbers, it looks like Democrats are really voting in big, big numbers. Of course, we have to watch out for mis and disinformation. The situation is volatile, it's fluid. It is, the energy today might not be the energy 6 months from now. But dementia is featuring heavily in people's decision making, as is poverty, with the Five of Pentacles, as is betrayal, and worry about his health too. But I think he'll be gone. So, that's a factor that could really shift things as well. So, will the Democrats win in 2026 the Senate? I'm not so sure. Will they win the House? I think so. I mean, there's some up in the airs there too, but I don't think the Republicans are going to be able to gerrymander themselves out of it, provided Virginia can redraw their maps, Illinois redraws their maps. If the Democrats are in California, Proposition 50 passes, which it will, um, that pretty much negates a lot of what they're going to do. Florida will be an interesting one if they redraw the maps there. They could redraw themselves into a disaster too, right? Because I think Democrats are really going to outperform. Okay. Will the election in Virginia and New Jersey, Virginia in particular, because that's a good candidate, not much baggage. I'm not saying Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey is not a good candidate. I'm just saying there's some baggage there. And I think the House of Delegates in Virginia, the Democrats will win at least 56 seats, probably a few more, but at least 56. Which should give them plenty of votes to change the maps. Of course, the voters will have to approve it if I understand everything correctly. Will the elections scare Republicans? I think it might make the shutdown end quicker. Um, I think, returning some subsidies to the Affordable Care Act exchange would be a good thing because most people could not afford, you know, for a family of four, it's like $1,800 a month for health insurance, right? I mean, for a single man in his 70s, it's like $1,400 a month. So it's a lot of money with no subsidies. So we'll see. We get temperance. I do think it moderates them. I think they realize that they're on a path not only to lose, but to lose really, really badly. And perhaps to lose so badly that they couldn't win the Senate back for 8 years. That's certainly a possibility. Uh, I think they've already got it in their mind that these election results matter. We got the moon card though, so don't be surprised if the felon says that there's election fraud. Don't be surprised. You know, I just wouldn't be surprised. The Ten of Pentacles, thinking about legacy, he knows he's going to lose and he's not happy about it. The Sun card at the center of the reading shows good promise. That not only it'll scare them, but that they'll come around to the truth. And then we have the Eight of Wands, and I think it'll happen quickly. If the Democrats win by a big enough margin, and I think like say 12 to 14 points in Virginia, and by 8 points in New Jersey, maybe a little bit more. That I think scares, especially if the Virginia House of Delegates and the Jersey House of Delegates go overwhelmingly for the Democrats, and some Republican leaning delegate districts go to the Democrats, then I think Democrats really do move quickly to try to avert this shutdown and to try to avert the disaster that's coming for them. If one plan doesn't work, try another. There'll be bigger pushes to redraw the maps. We'll see how that works. There's a lot of different possibilities here for sure at the Seven of Cups. But, there's guardrails in place. The courts are going to throw out some of these maps, by the way. It's just the way it's going to work. So this takes time. I think it'll moderate Republicans a little bit. I think they'll be willing to reopen the government, and that'll put up some safety nets for us and for them, and give their chances a little bit better in the election. Question is, will the felon sign something? That I'm not so sure about. If one plan doesn't work, try another. Uh, Full illumination of the volatility. So we'll get to know exactly why they were doing what they were doing, which mostly is about legacy and tearing down Obama's legacy in particular, getting rid of, democratic safety nets. And but after the election, I think things do move along quite quickly. I'm not saying that the shutdown will end next week, although it might. I'm just saying I don't think it drags into past Christmas. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, there'll be a lot of infighting between Republicans. Some of them will want to hang on to their pentacles, thinking that they have what it takes, which in some gerrymandered districts they do. But the felon can't pull them around forever. He's ill and he's on his way out with the Eight of Cups. So it's doesn't look good for them. I think the elections do scare them. Okay, so let's look. Is he taking some experimental drug? Is he taking some experimental drug? Now I kept, we kept getting the Six of Pentacles, and I kept saying, he's getting these drugs, and I said this for a while. The Four of Cups, and this is he's giving these drugs. He doesn't like to take them. What's the up with this bruise on his hand? I mean, um, I've been saying that for months and months and months that there's something with the medications, and he doesn't like them. I don't know if they're making his hair thin. I think they might have taken him off of his whatever drug that keeps your hair thick that he used to take. I don't think he's taking that anymore. Um, was aging quite rapidly. Is he on some sort of experimental drug here? Experimental drug. There's something different. I think, I keep saying that they're on plan C, D, E, and F. They're just throwing everything they can to try to keep his heart functioning. I'm not even worried about the dementia issue. He's going downhill. That's for sure. The Eight of Wands, and it's happening quite fast. Um, Death in the environment around again. Um, and it's really quite taxing for him. It's and his the people around him, like keeping the charade up is quite taxing. We get the Chariot card. There's been some change, forward movement. We get the Nine of Cups, greed or wish fulfillment, depending upon your preference there. I think that's, a pretty good sign that he's on some sort of drug. There's a lot of fighting about it though. There's like he might not fit the clinical definitions to get on it, right? Like they monitor these things very explicitly. Experimental drugs are only given to certain people that fit certain criteria so that they can be tested properly. I feel like he doesn't fit the criteria completely, but I think they're giving it to him. It's like special treatment. But his health is still very poor, the Five of Pentacles. And we're gonna find out about it, the Sun card. And things are gonna happen quite quickly. Like I said, it's not like it's gonna be a slow 3 weeks in the hospital and then he's gone. It's gonna just be gone. This is the way it's just gonna. I think that's the way it goes. It's the way I've always seen it. His health is in the decline. I think there is some sort of wish here about a drug that he got on that he probably shouldn't be on. Um, and it seems to be helping, but his health is still very poor. And while this will work, it's still, his heart is still very much taxed with the Ten of Wands. I think there was a lot of fighting about him getting on this drug, by the way. Uh, there's some change for sure with the Chariot card. We'll know about it. And even with this drug, it doesn't really change things. Death is still lingering there, right? It's been in the environment around for a while. And I think, you know, it's not a matter of years, it's a matter of weeks or months, and probably not many months. I think we'll get messages about his health with the Page and Knight of Pentacles. I think it'll cause a lot of controversy, and it has to do with his heart. It really, there's something wrong with his heart, and that's what this drug is about. It's about making his heart function better. Um, and I think it also has another possible use, which is slowing down dementia. But I think ultimately this drug will prove to not be quite very successful. So it feels like if this drug, this off topic, this drug turn out to be successful in something that we hear about. Maybe, possibly. The Hierophant. Okay. So is this prolonging his life, or should we expect miracles here for him? I don't think so. I don't think much has really changed, to be honest with you. I think it's just um it shows how at the end we're resorting to drugs that he probably doesn't fit the criteria for the experimentation of. Is this gonna prolong his life? What can you show us? Then we'll take a deeper look at. Is this gonna prolong his life? I don't think so. The Ten of Pentacles, at least not by much. The Ten of Pentacles is the end of the cycle. It's also the inheritance card. Get the Hermit card. Not many people know what's going on. We will know, and it'll be a surprise. It'll be one of these. Oh, yeah, here he is getting special treatment again. His karma, unfortunately, comes after he passes. Yeah, we'll get messages about this at some point. Yeah, this is plan E, D, F, G, the Eight of Pentacles. If one plan doesn't work, try another. So will it prolong his life? That I don't think so. No, I don't think so. The Tower card. And the King of Wands. I don't know how he got this drug, but I don't think he's supposed to be on it. The Empress and wish fulfillment. So, I think the end is near. I think they're on their last leg, their last plan, and it's only by some sort of scheming the system that he got on this drug, is what it feels like. Um, there was a lot of sweet talking to make that happen, but ultimately, I think the bombshell and the surprise here is, you know, this upsets a lot of people. Does it prolong his life? No. We'll hear about it, and this will alienate a lot of people that, you know, are in the medical field. It'll ostracize some of his doctors. Uh, Prolong his life. I don't think so. We get the magician and then we get the three swords again. There's just his heart is just not functioning properly. And there's not really much you can do about that, a heart transplant, but you know, if he gets that, then I think there really will be a lot of anger. But he would have to admit he was sick too, so I don't think he would. Okay, so I'll use this. No, I think I'll go back to this. Okay, so what do we need to know? How long is he here for? Just like everybody else, just this anticipation. I think we can all feel it's coming, but there's also this fear that it's not. I'm pretty sure it is. I just don't think I don't think he's around for the 2026 election cycle. I just don't feel that. I feel like he's a big theme, but I don't think he's actually there. No, there's something wrong with his heart. I mean, every time we pull the Three of Swords, I mean, it's if I haven't been doing this for 20 years, I'd say it's uncanny, but that's the way these things work. Um, his heart's in really bad shape. We get the end of a cycle and the thinking of family, which is something I've long said is on his mind. And we get a new beginning here, the Ace of Pentacles. That's a good card. We get the Magician. They're trying everything to keep him above ground. But really, I mean, they're just taking gambles at this point. They're literally trying anything and everything. And yeah, they're making choices. The Lover's card, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, doctors, there's Three of Pentacles, circles of support, the Queen of Cups. But ultimately he's going down. This is the way it is. So, his heart is failing, everything's a gamble, and he's going down. He has support, but it's turning the wheel, and ultimately we end up with a new beginning and a new start to some extent for the country. I think they're trying everything they can. They're making all sorts of choices. I think he's managed to get some treatment that he probably shouldn't have, but he still knows the end is near, and thinking about ways of cheating the tax code to help his kids. We have circles of support underneath. But ultimately, logic is going to catch up with him, just like the life process. Stability can't last forever. We get this surprising new beginning, and we get the end of the cycle with the Ten of Pentacles. The deceit and deception will be revealed with the Seven of Swords. About what? About his ill health, the Four of Swords. So I just don't think he's around much longer. I don't know. I wish I could tell you the exact date. Maybe one day I will, but or like a rough approximation. I still think it's soon. I really do. I think it's just like one of these things. His heart just fails, and that's it. It either causes a stroke or he a pulmonary embolism, something along those lines. Blood clot forms in his legs, and I know he's on blood thinners, but they don't always work. So I think that's what ultimately happens here. So, all right, thank you, and I will be back with another video soon.